What's up? This video might not be what you think. Recently, I did a video about 9 reasons that classical musicians should consider going beyond their classical training. And of course, I grew up as a classical violin player, and so it's a fine line to walk. Like, I don't want to necessarily criticize the classical music community. I love classical music, and it was a lot of Suzuki teachers and orchestra teachers that helped me growing up, and I'm grateful to them. And at the same time, now that I've taken the last 30 years really and explored beyond the classical world and developed other skills, the ability to improvise and play in other settings, you know, an entrepreneurial approach to my career and all these sorts of things, you know, I really feel strongly about encouraging classical musicians to get what they want from being musicians. And what do we really want from being musicians? I think we want to feel proud of ourselves when we play music. I think we want to enjoy playing music fundamentally. And I enjoy classical music. I always did enjoy classical music. I'm sure if you grew up playing classical music or fiddle music or whatever you grew up doing, that you enjoy it too. But I think for a lot of us, when we're in that one tradition, we feel this sense of insecurity about the skills we don't have, the knowledge we don't have, or even the feeling that like we're not creative. And so especially for those of you who might be in Europe or in Asia, if, you know, because this happens to me a lot, people that I meet in Europe or Asia or in other places around the world outside of the US, they say, well, you know, I guess it's not like this in the US, but we don't go beyond classical music here in Asia or in Europe. And I say, no, it's exactly the same. People are the same all around the world. I mean, the classical music community is the classical music community, for better or for worse. And of course, I feel like I want to see that change. So here's just a couple things I want you to think about. Number one, I'll tell you a story about when I was 16, because I'm guessing that you have the same feeling. There was this kid that sat in the back of the orchestra when I was 16 in my high school, and he could barely, he really couldn't play the violin that much. He hadn't had a lot of lessons, but he would come in with his own creative works that he recorded in his basement, and he would bring them in, and everybody was hovering around this kid, and they wanted to listen to the recordings he made. He wrote his own songs. He played drums, he played bass. He had older brothers, so he would, you know, make this stuff. And I was really jealous of that kid. Like, I was the concert master in my orchestra, and I was working on Paganini and, you know, all this kinds of stuff. But I was jealous, and I thought to myself, I'm just not creative like him. I'm just not a creative person. And it was this like, you know, like, I don't know. Like, I just felt really bad about that. And the reason I'm sharing that is because I feel like most classical musicians, they have that feeling about themselves. And that's just one example of one of the things and one of the ways that you can feel trapped, and that I felt trapped as a classical musician. And not to take away from all the great things that I got from it. You know, I love chamber music, I love orchestra music, I love the repertoire, I love to play the instrument. But that idea that I'm just not creative and I never will be, I mean, that's such a frustrating, and it can be like a sad thought to have about ourselves, and then it can lead to other things. It can lead to sort of, you know, I don't know. It can lead to this kind of negative talk about ourselves. And the thing is, it's not true. Like, we're all creative. I mean, that's what I found out. I set about to kind of change that self-talk and see, what if I just try? What if I really explore the idea of trying to be creative on the violin? I joined rock bands, and I played with a lot of other musicians, and I just developed a methodology, you know, for practicing my own sound, doing free improvisations, you know, even. And of course, I do blues and I do jazz and fiddle styles and a lot of styles, but one of the things I love to do is free improvisation, and I teach it to classical musicians, especially because it's something that you can be taught and you can do right away without knowing harmony. So I might give somebody like a simple parameter like this. I might say, just play eighth notes at this tempo. And I'll either suggest that they do it in a key or that they do it without a key. So I'll give you a couple examples. Here's one in a key. Let's try, I'm gonna try the key of E flat major. And I'll pick a tempo like do-ga, do-ga, do, something like that. Let's see how it goes. Oh, gonna have to take that again. E flat major. Okay. Now let me do one more example without any tonality. So I'm actually going to try to do all 12 notes. I'm going to do the same tempo, but I'll do it in triplets. Just give myself a little bit of a challenge here. And I'm trying to make it obvious that I'm actually improvising here. Let's see. So anyway, you get the idea. This is just an example of one of the exercises that I'll try to get classical musicians to get them improvising quickly. But there's so many other things or ways in which, as classical musicians, we can feel frustrated or we can develop this kind of negative self-talk. And I guess one of the biggest things that I would love to share with you, or for you to know, besides the fact that you are creative and you can develop exercises, or you can get involved with a simple set of exercises, change the way you practice, and start reinforcing that for yourself, and really, you know, seeing your own creative process develop, and start to feel good about that, to start to feel proud about just the fact that you have something you're creating that's yours, you know, beyond the classical repertoire or whatever repertoire that you might still enjoy. But also things like harmony, like navigating harmony, like how to play over a chord progression, or how to be able to play over a groove, how to play different styles. These kinds of things, they're not magic. They're actually more math and process or method than you might think. And it's just that, and frankly, you know, so many guitar players and piano players and drummers, they've learned these methods. Like, you know, they're not cut from a different cloth than us as bowed string players. They've just been exposed to different ideas. So I have spent a lot of time, in the last, you know, really 30 years, first of all, finding my own way, but then starting to teach it to others, and then developing and perfecting, ultimately, a methodology to help people that are in a position like I was. And you don't have to be super advanced. There's really not a pre-qualifier. It's just something I'd love to share with you. And there's a few different ways you can do that. You can connect with me online, and even sometimes during special promotions, I even give away free lessons, private lessons. But you can connect with me online, or you can join us at one of our live workshops, which are really a blast. We have a lot of string players, similar-minded, like-minded, you know, they're interested in being creative, they're interested in continuing to grow as musicians, to push themselves, to feel that excitement that many of us felt in conservatory, you know. They're interested in building their career in a creative way as well, right? Having some control over their career and having some variety of opportunities. So these workshops are awesome, and we've got them in several cities around the world. We'll be in Europe, I hope to be in Asia this year, and we'll be in a few cities in the United States. So definitely click the links here and reach out to me and let me know what you think either way. Thanks.